which is main web server IIS is something which is for the deployment of ASP.NET sites, or I mean basically websites which you develop on .NET, right? Is going to be you can actually deploy them on IIS. We'll see this IIS deployment part, which is a very important part towards the end of our class, right? Now. Okay, so now let's start with the actual content of how we actually create a website. ASP.NET websites and different folders what we have and different things in ASP.NET, right? So before that, just to conclude this IIS part, we have IIS. We'll be having IIS where on IIS I'll be deploying my web code or web pages. Let's say. Right, so this will be the main code which will be deployed, right? And this is something which will be pointed to IIS. So, right, and then IIS is the one which will be exposed to internet. When I say internet, it is HTTP protocol, right? Which is hypertext transfer protocol. So this is something which is we also call as the internet protocol we have, right? So using internet, so several clients, maybe client 1, right? Client 2, client 3, right? So many clients can access my website using this. So this is something to keep in mind that we are going to, this is the path which clients are going to surf our page. Now we are at this portion now, right? We are learning ASP.NET and MVC as part of this, right? Also the web services part, and then we will understand deployment so that you can actually understand how sites are live in the market, right? Now, so let's start with creating a sample project of ASP.NET. So in this project, so let me close reading for now. So I'm going to create a web application in a same solution, right? So either I can use same solution, because solution is something which can catch hold of multi type of projects. So as of now, we were creating a class libraries, right? Sorry, console type of projects, right? So we'll be creating the web applications to the same solution, right? So right click on this, and we have something called add new project. Now, so as we are going to work on web, right? So basically we used to set console or class library or console applications till now. Now let's go to the web part, and in that we can see there are so many type of projects where we are going to see the ASP.NET web application stuff. And then after that we'll go to MVC, right? So let me set this ASP.NET NPM application, and let me give some name to that. Let me use something called web info. Right? And let me set this. Now here you can see I am selecting the .NET Framework 4.5 for my ASP.NET application. Right? So I create it. Now there are two ways how we create. Right? One way we created that this is something which is a blank project. Right? So let me create one more type of project here. So you can see there are two things. One is the ASP.NET Web Forms, and one is the ASP.NET Empty Web Application. Right? You can actually create any of them. So if you want to create empty, it will not create anything for you. You can see your web intro project is almost, there are no pages, nothing, everything is blank. But if you select your Web Forms application, right? So by default, it will actually give you some basic site. So let me make it as web intro. Let me say it as basic. Right? Click on it. So let's watch over this one. Now here, as soon as you create web intro basic, right? And there is a type of project which is ASP.NET Web Forms project, which will create a sample pages for you. Right? There will be some sample page. Now here we have to understand that in each and every website, right, each page in ASP.NET is called as a web form. Right? you can create multiple web forms, and each web form will have a extension called .aspx. Right, active server page extension is one which is a main extension for all our web form files. Now you can see here, as soon as I'm creating this project, you can see at the status bar, it is adding so many pages, and now it is ready. Right, so make this as a startup project, and let me run this, and I'll show you how. Now you can see in our web basic intro, a very huge files are created. You can see there are images, there are content, there are multiple pages, right? There is a site master. What exactly are these things? We'll understand in our each class. Let me run this project. So again, the name of the project is same. Till now, what we used to see is still now all our project used to run on Control application, right? So whenever you create any web application, right, everything will actually run on your browser, right? Automatically your run option can be changed. See here, if you are using 2012 and more, right, versions of Visual Studio, you can actually choose your type of browser you want to run on, right? Or else if you are using 2010, right, then it will give you a direct option, and the default browser in your Windows, whatever default you have registered with your Windows, will be the default execution of your Visual Studio web application. But here you can actually select which browser you want to work on. You can see whatever browser you have installed, like the main browser which Visual Studio can actually track. We have everything. You can see our Avant browser, Firefox, Google Chrome, Internet, Opera, and Safari. Right? If you have more, you can actually select more. Right? You can actually go with that. Right? Now by default I have actually selected Internet Explorer, so whenever I click on this, my Outlook will be opened in Internet Explorer. So let me click on this. Now you can see, let me open up. Now you can see we have to understand few things in here. Now you can see there is a basic site which will get open for you. Now you can see you can actually go to different links here, about page, contact page, right? You can see register page, right? So everything will be ready as soon as you create your basic web forms application, right? Where it will give you all the basics, and whatever you want to change, you can actually change it. Right? Now, so this is something which is a basic, but now we'll actually start with something that we don't know anything. I mean, we are going to start it as a fresh. So how to create a page and how to write HTML and all. Now, so when we talk about ASP.NET or any web page which is developed on ASP.NET framework, so take everything in ASP.NET manifest, because don't compare anything with MVC. If you guys know MVC, don't compare anything with MVC, because we are going to catch up with MVC later after we're done with ASP.NET. Okay? Now in here, ASP.NET, so we have web forms, which is a combination of HTML plus .NET code, right? Plus we have something called .NET controls too, right? So in web form you can have basically anyways whatever browser we have, right, or whatever page you are going to write, anyways the final output will be HTML. That is for sure. Why? Because we understood that web application, how 50 persons here are able to access our site, because they may have different browser they have. But for all browsers, one common input is HTML. Any website developed on PHP, developed in Java, developed in .NET, developed in Flex or any technology, the final output of everything will be HTML. Right? You can write any code, you can write any controller, anything doesn't matter, but your final output is HTML. That is the reason why any browser which supports HTML, right, can be used to access any site. That is why we never know which site actually got developed on, but maybe by some page extensions like .jsp, the actual Java page, .aspx is your docking page or your .php is PHP based, you can understand the extension, but normally you don't care about that, right? Because the common output is HTML, right? But yes, even before HTML, we have many things to look into, which makes our web form rich enough to make our page look good and more functional, right? So these are different things which we are going to see anyways in our here. Now here, HTML is something which we are going to touch upon, but not in depth, because HTML is something which is going to be a web design part. But yes, I will see a few tags to actually talk about some of the ASP.NET controls now. So when I say HTML, right, it means that it includes, let's say, your JavaScript, your CSS. I mean, when I'm talking about HTML, which means I think that I'm actually talking about web design. Right? Web designing is different from your web development. So making it functional is something which you are going to see. How to make a function of a website is something which you are going to see. When I click on a button, I want to get something from database and show it on a page is something which is web functional development we are going to see, and not the design part. Right? Okay. So this is about a basic thing which we have in web form as soon as we create it. Now, in ASP.NET itself, you can also create something called HTML pages too. Simple HTML pages where you don't want document-rich controls to actually go, right? You can create a complete HTML website using ASP.NET. Right? You can do that part, right? Because it is completely allowed here. Now, let's create a first page in our website. Now, here, there is my web intro website which I have. Now, initially when I create a blank, you can see there are few properties, a few references. Now, in the references, you can see the main assembly called system.web will be added up, right? Where your HTTP methods and different steps will be added. Now, what are they? We'll actually talk about them in our individual topics now, right? But you can see web-related main data will be added. And we have the configuration called web.config. Now, in our previous classes, when we were using console class like this, right, we have the configuration which is app.config, right? But for web, we'll be having web.config. And this web.configuration file is the one where you can set up any configurations in here. So, as soon as we progress, we'll actually see how it's going to work. Right? Now, so here we have a simple web.config where by default you can see as soon as you create a project, it will actually tag your framework which you are going to apply on this site, right? Which is my system.web will actually make my website. Whenever I deploy this, it will actually talk to iOS and says that yes, I want a runtime 4.5 to run this website. Now based on that, we will actually deploy this. Right? Deployment part we see this. Now, let's start with the first web form. Right click on your project and you have something called add. You can go to new item, but you can see as it is a web application, you can see by default it will give you some options. You can see something called web form, you have HTML page, JavaScript file, your master page, right? All these are sitemap, all these are related to your web project, right? So first let's get a simple web form. And let me call it as home. As soon as you create, you can see the home.asp extension will be created, and by default we can create a simple HTML. Now, the main difference here is this page directive. Now, on the top of every ASPX page, you will have something called directives, which is by default you will get a page directive. What does it mean? Let me create a simple HTML and I'll show you the difference. HTML page. HTML page is something which contains a basic. Let me call this HTML page as something index.html. Now you can see whenever you create HTML, it will give a plain, simple HTML will be created. When you come to ASPX, you can see the simple plain HTML, you have something called your page directory too. Now, this is the one which actually says, yes, my current page is something which is which is .NET supported. You can see language C#. You say, okay, this page is a .NET page, right? Where I have my code behind. What is code behind? Code behind is something. Now, in each and every web form, right, you have some different views. First thing, this is something which is your HTML view, right? And let's say here you are writing something. Now, you have a body. I hope if you know some HTML, right? You have HTML tag, your head tag, your body tag. Inside body, you have form and theme. Theme is nothing but a division which you have. Then you can actually write something. Let's say this is my first, let's say, web page, right? Let's say I just wrote a simple, plain text here. Now this is something which you normally call as a source or HTML view, right? Where you can actually move to design view. Here you can see at the bottom of your ASPX page, let me just minimize this. At the bottom you have something called design view. Click on that. When you click on design view, right? Now you can see your page, whatever you are going to do here, right, will actually see the actual page here. Right? I'll show you that part. Let's go to Visual Basic which we created, right? And include a page. Let me open some page, like default.aspx. Now you can see there is so much of code written. Right? This is source. When I go to design, you can see, right? The actual page you can actually see, and you can edit whatever you want here. This is something which is a design and a source. Or you can also see the split view, right? As soon as you select portion, right, it will actually be highlighted. See here, when I select this modify, you can see it is saved. And if you actually modify this template, let's say here I'm going to modify something as this is my first web page, right? And save. You can see it saves here. Now even in this way you want to work, you can work in split there, right? Anything will actually work. You can go to source if you are more interested on writing code. On the writing HTML, you can go, or if you are interested on directly using some diagram of some controls and use, you can do that. Or either way, this one's needed. Now this is something different views which you have for your one single ASPX page. And now the next one is you have, obviously you write your web page, everything is fine, but it should be functional, right? So in order to for your page to make it functional, right? Either you have to write JavaScript or you have to write some code. Later in my .NET code, right? So that is something which we normally call it as a code behind. You can see there is a attribute called code behind where you can see home.aspx.cs. Right click on this page and say new code. Now it will take you to normal class. Now this is something where you can write code for the page. Now if you see here, your home.aspx was created, right? Actually expanded. Now you can see two things. Your home.aspx.cs is the one where you can write your code. This is your code behind it, right? Similarly, if you go to HTML page, and now you can see you don't have any code here. You can write everything in that HTML because you have to write JavaScript and everything for make it functional. Right? Let's not get into that now. So here is your code behind, and you have one more file called designer file. Right? In your ASPX web form, there are many things. You have home.aspx, you have home.aspx.cs, which is your code behind, and the last file you have is designer. Now, what is this designer file? Now, this designer is something which will hold the objects of your controls you are going to use in here. You understand this once you start with some controls. No worry about that. I will get back to this design again. Right? But the main files are ASPX file, your CS file, which is a code behind. Now, why is CS? Because we have selected a C# project, and that's the reason why the extension is CS. If you have selected VB as a default language, then your files will be .VB. The extension will be .VB. Right? Similarly, other stuffs. Fine. Now this is how it actually got created. Now you can see this in the solution explorer. You can see all the file hierarchies. The next thing is you have one more very important window called toolbox. Now this is the one, right, which will give you all the rich controls which Document provides. Right? You can see the first one under windows, mainly this contains everything that we normally use in day by day. You can see there is a button control, checkbox control, drop-down control. Anyways, you will see you'll be looking at measure of mostly used controls. Right? You see the text box, right? You have a pan radio button here, right? You have hyperlink, image button, or image link, or label, right? List box. There are many controls over here. We're going to see most of the controls in our classes, and you have some data, right? So this data part is something which will give you, these are the rich controls which we have in .NET, which can connect to any type of data source, like it can be database or a file or a XML, whatever, to actually retrieve data and publish on screen. We'll be looking at this, right? Then we have something called build tool, which we're going to look in later. And similarly, we have validations, right? Where it provides regex validations or regular expression validation or custom validator. So this is something, if you have seen any website, right? Whenever you have let's say register, if you go to the register page, if you don't provide any mandatory fields, right, and you click on login or submit, right, it will immediately decide the text box that you have to provide these are mandatory field. That is something which is a validation we're doing. Now here in .NET you don't have to write separate code for that, you have default validators for it. Right? You'll actually see that part. And we have navigations here, like you have menus, you can preview, you have sitemap tab, right? We're going to see. So this will actually give you a good menu section, good sitemap where you can actually know, see if your website is complex, right? Then obviously you have to understand, right, how it actually works, right? So this is a site which I have, share.com, right? Now where you can see these are menus, right? Menu. Now here in my menu, in any site, right, what is important? The navigation. How easy you actually make your users accessible to the resources you have, right, is something which makes your site good. Right? Now you can see everything should be clear enough. Now you can see he can actually go to main menus as soon as he enters into my site, he will be able to see, okay, what are the different menus I have, or a quick view of your features. Now this is something which I have created in jQuery, where you can see he can have a quick view, okay, what exactly my site contains. You can see, okay, this site contains complete Android mobile development. If you go through this Android mobile development, you can actually develop an app. So he clicks on this. As soon as he clicks, now you can see he will go to the complete my tutorial of Android, which are my class tutorials which are published. Now you can see I am giving many good navigation here. These are called as a navigation app. So I have navigation including that user don't have to go to menu and click. But I am providing easy navigation here itself. You can go to previous video, right, which will automatically go to previous and select this. Let's say I'm in SDK Eclipse and so on, so right. Now let me click on next, which means I want to go to the next tutorial or tutorial video, which will go to this. Go to any navigation, let's say I'm going to storage part of Android, right, it will automatically select this, and when I click from here, next button all, right. Now you can see it goes to next to storage too, right? And including that, see here what is happening. It says, okay, I am in Google Tutorials, the website is like this is highlighted, and under Google Tutorials I am selecting Android. Under Google Tutorials I have many. You can learn Core Java completely. You can learn Advanced Java completely. You can learn your Android completely, which are my class videos, like my student training videos actually, right? Where you can actually go through this, and so this is something, a simple website which we have where there is a simple navigation menu, right, where you can see that there are some consistent parts of your website, right? Which specifies as soon as you get into site, okay, it's giving quick name and quick. It says what this site is meant for, and it will give all the features, and whoever are connected, it will give to this in mind. Let's say I've just kept a face like box here, right? And as soon as you go to video tutorials, then again have okay, these are video tutorials. Click on any, it will take you to that video tutorials, and you highlight it here and here, and you can start here, and till the end you have a very good navigation of your site. Right? These are samples which are actually shown. Now all these things can be achieved. Anyways, my site here, this is completely developed in, I developed this in complete .NET. But yes, the same thing can be done in ASP.NET. Right? Now where you have your site map tree and everything, where you can actually drag and drop and use. Right? And now same way login. Now this is one of the very good features in ASP.NET, where you have a complete login. If you drag and drop your login, right? Let me just drag and drop this, right? So this will actually give you a complete login. See, a default complete login will give you where you can actually set, right? Set properties which and work on. Right? This is something which will give you a direct option now. Your change password, login, and status of records. Okay. Right, and then we have some web parts. We're going to see, mainly Ajax. So whenever we actually enter into Ajax of, ASP.NET, right? Ajax is something which is most prevailing in it can be a ASP.NET or about MVC, right? Ajax is something which is very important to understand, right? We'll actually come to Ajax part 2, and we have some reporting and HTML business. So we're going to see, this is a toolbox which contains everything where you can actually have your data. You can actually drag and drop. Let's say I want checkbox, drag and drop here, and this is your HTML view, and go to design view, you will see your checkbox today. Right? So this is how you can actually select things in Visual Studio. Now, this is about toolbox which you have. Similarly, let's go to the properties window, right? So you can go to this design view, right click on this and say properties, or you can go to view and you have something called our windows. We have property manager. Click on this. Not property manager. You have some other windows here. So other windows you have solution explorer, and we don't have here. Oh, we have properties window. Click on this. Now you will get your properties window here, right? Now when you select any control that you can see, if you select any control, specific to that control, you get all the properties in it. Now you can see for my checkbox, I'll just take an example. We'll come to the checkbox and different controls in our upcoming classes. Don't worry about that. Right, in your checkbox you can see you have name here, ID, which is an ID. For every control you have something called ID, because this is an identifier of this checkbox. Now let me show you designer now. As soon as I actually got my checkbox control, right? If you go to designer, you can see you can create an object for that checkbox control, and this object name here is same as your ID here. If I change this, you can see I can change it from here. Let's say it is check something called data. Right, now this is my ID. You can see it actually got changed here. Now let's go back to this. Now you can see it will change here. Right? Our ASP.NET Visual Studio will take care of these things. As soon as you do this, it actually changes. So here, for ID is nothing but an identifier of a checkbox. Why? Because if I want to use this checkbox to do some action in my code, right, in my C# code, I should know what exactly is the name of this, and that is something which is this identifier is giving. Now you can see by default it says there is no text for this. Now in this properties you can see there is a text property here. You can say something like let's say true, right? Now you need the name will be received. Right? So in that way you can actually have your when you run this page. Let's see what happens here. When you run this page, now you can see this opens up in a browser, right? where you can see it will actually paint whatever you have done. Now you can see you can check or uncheck your checkbox. Right? So this is how the site works. Where by default, whenever you open up your run your page, run your web project, right? If you open up and it will show the default page of it. Now we actually understand more things about this. Now, if you have multiple pages in one, obviously you can have any number of pages in your solution, right? So in that case, so if you want to make any one page as a startup page, you can select that page, right click on there and say set as start page, right? And your this page will be your startup page here. Now this startup page we will see this again in our iOS deployment part 2, where we will actually see how it is important to set a default document for your application. Right? So this is about a few things about different windows which are going to use mainly in our ASP.NET website development. Right? We are going to see much more things in our upcoming classes, and on how to actually get these different things here and work on this, right? And this is the part.